This is a quick video on how to change the spark plugs on a 2007 Lexus IS250 with the 4GR motor. So let's just get right into it. So first things first, you want to take out the cover. And now you can see most of the engine here. So the first step would be to take out the intake tube. I know you also have to take out this cover on the right hand passenger side to get access to the clamp. There's a little 10mm plastic bolt down there and a couple of tabs. Some are missing already from whoever previously worked on this. So to take this intake tube out, you're just going to have to take out these clamps here with the 10mm. Sometimes they're a little rusty and they'll get turning eventually, but I've had to cut them out sometimes and replace them. And on the throttle body there's another 10. You should be able to get these clamps here just with your fingers. If you take it out from the bottom would be better. Give it a twist and pull, it should come right out. Same here, after the clamp is loosened, just give it a little tug. Then underneath there's a clip holding on a line. And then that's that to get the tube out. And as you can see here, you have access to the passenger side bank for the 3 coils, so you can get the plugs. But unfortunately, on the driver's side, you have to remove the intake manifold because the coils and plugs are buried beneath it. So the next step I'm going to show you is how to remove this intake manifold. So first things first, we just want to remove anything that's attached to the intake manifold. So that would include any wiring harnesses, vacuum lines. There's a cold start injector over there we have to remove. The evap purge valve we have to disconnect. So we'll start first with the evap purge valve. And make sure you have a container to put your bolts into. So we can pull this vacuum line out of the intake manifold and just set the whole thing aside. Disconnect the harness. Just set it outside out of the way. And what I like to do here too is because you have water lines running to this throttle body, you don't want to make a mess and stuff, so I just remove the throttle body and set it aside so we don't have to drain and bleed coolant after the job is done. So to remove this throttle body, there's 4 10mm bolts. We'll first remove the harness. Now that all 4 bolts are removed from the throttle body, we can just let it sit here. So now we don't have to disconnect the coolant lines going to it, and we won't make no mess or have to do any extra coolant bleeding or anything like that. It just saves a little bit of time. I just want to get these hoses unhooked from these little brackets here. Have a harness under there with some tabs. Squeeze under there with the pliers. And it'll just pop right out like that. There's also a harness here we have to disconnect. And we also have the vacuum line going to the brake booster. Let's get the pliers and pull the clamp back. Just twist and pull. And that can be out of the way. We have more clips for the harness. We're going to do the same thing there. Just squeeze the tabs and push it down. There's another harness going to this cold start injector. Disconnect that. And for the cold start injector, it's a 12mm banjo bolt. Easy to get it with a wrench. Be careful of removing it so you don't crack the intake. Go pull, and that's it. A little fuel leak over there. And be sure to not lose the 2 washers. Put them back on the same way they came off. Let's put that in our bucket of bolts. The next step is to get the little bracket which is buried behind the firewall on the back of the intake manifold. It's a little 12mm bolt. Try and see if I can show it to you here. It's a little 12mm bolt. It's a bracket that holds the intake manifold to the back of the head just to keep it sturdy. And the best way to get this one is with a flex head ratchet with a short 12mm socket. You just sneak it in there, and once you got it on, just give it a turn. And if you're lucky, it'll be finger tight and you can just spin it out, which it seems so with this one. It's barely enough room to get your hand in there. It's a pretty long bolt too. And once you have it out, just put it in your box of bolts. And also one more thing back here, there's a breather hose from the valve cover to the intake manifold. You just have to undo the little clamp, and then once we lift it out, we'll pull the hose out together with the intake. There's also another bracket holding the intake manifold just behind the throttle body. This one's easier to access than the other one. You can just get it with a 10mm wrench. Nice to have a ratcheting wrench for this. Get the job done faster, but it should be finger tight. So the next step is to remove the bracket closest to the front under the intake swirl control valve here. It's hard to see at first glance, but it's actually buried beneath this main harness here. And you can see it's a 12mm. You can get it with a long extension with a 12mm socket, just like that. Now the next step is to remove the bolts fastening the upper intake manifold to the lower intake manifold. So you have here is a couple of 10mm nuts. That's one. That's the other one. And then the rest are 5mm hex bolts. So these ones are fairly accessible. That one's accessible. That one there is fairly accessible. The hard part here with these ones is these ones which are buried. That's one. And then that's two over there. So what happens, you get a lot of dirt buildup in these, and it's fairly easy to strip them. So what I usually do, I blow a little bit of compressed air in there to get rid of the debris. And it'll be nice to have a long hex socket to get in there, but I don't have one. I just have a short one, like this one here. So I have a solution for that as well. I'm going to show it to you. But first, let's just clean up the debris so we don't strip the bolt heads. So a little bit of air is all that's needed. As you can see, we can safely get on there now without stripping the bolt head. So you want to work your way from the outside in when you're loosening. So from this one to that one, and work your way in. And when you're tightening, you start from the middle and work your way out. 10mm is the easy one. And what I like to do, since I don't have a long hex socket, let's take an Allen key like this, stick it in. Once we catch it, I give it a little tap with the hammer just for good measure, just to make sure it's all the way in. So you have that in there. I take your vice grips, grab the end of it, and now you should be able to get that one out. And that's how you crack it. So that's cracked. And you're going to repeat that process for all the ones that the short socket can't get to. Let me just undo that. So once they're cracked, you can just turn them out like so. And just in case you're wondering, I have stripped these before to the point where the Allen key wouldn't work anymore, and I do have a solution for that as well. But just in case you strip it, you can take a 9mm 12-point socket and just hammer it on the head. Get an extension with the hammer, hammer it on, and then that, I've always gotten them out like that. I've never had trouble getting them out. So just a little tip if you do strip the heads on them. So once we've disconnected everything, we can proceed to lift the intake manifold away to gain access to the coil packs and spark plugs. I want to lift the front out of it first, and remember there's that hose I told you about. As we're lifting, I want to disconnect it. Once that's out, the whole thing, we should be able to remove it. Just make sure nothing's caught while you're removing it. Let me get this guy out of the way. As you can see, now we have access to these 3 coil packs and spark plugs. So now we can proceed to removing the coil packs and replacing the spark plugs. And also, make sure you put a rag over this, a clean rag, and make sure no dirt or debris gets inside these ports. Now that the intake manifold is removed, you just want to inspect these gaskets here, just to make sure they're still in good shape. Now would be a good time to change them, but I don't usually change these ones because they always seal back up after removal. You can feel that it's still protruding over the lip, and they're not hard and brittle. So these ones are good to reuse. I've never had one leak on me ever. Same thing with the throttle body O-ring. Just inspect it, make sure it protrudes over the lip still and it's not hard and brittle. And you should be safe to use them over again. Now, as I said, I've never had them leak on me yet on any one that I've done, but obviously if they're brittle and cracking, you should replace them. And you can also replace them right now as preventative maintenance. The next step is to disconnect the wiring harness from the coils. These ones usually get hard and brittle and they crack, so the way I like to do these is to stick a screwdriver under the tab and very carefully pry it up. Once you just got it tucked under there, like so, you can just pull out. Usually what I find, when you squeeze them, the tab usually breaks once they're hard and brittle, so if you're really careful with the screwdriver and do it just like the way I showed you, you won't break them. Once the harness is removed, just want to grab a 10mm. Grab your 10mm and just take out the bolt. Pull out the coil and watch for these insulators here. Just make sure you don't lose them. You put them back on if they fall out, and now you have access to the spark plug. The next step is to remove the plug with the spark plug socket. We're using today a 5/8 spark plug socket with a rubber insert at the top to hold on to the plug. A magnetic one is preferable, but this is what I have to work with here today. I just want to get it right in, make sure it grabs, and then very carefully brace one hand, the head of the ratchet with your hand, so you don't put too much twist on it, so you don't break the plug, and then just turn it, and it should come out with relative ease. Once it's loose, it should become off finger tight. You should be able to turn this with your hand and pull it right out. And also be sure not to get no dirt or debris inside the spark plug hole. And as you can see here, these plugs look pretty worn. Get a better shot of it. Right there. And you know they're worn once the gap starts to open up and the electrode tip is starting to burn out. So it looks like it's about time to change this one. So here's a few tips for installing the new plug. So that's your new plug there. And these plugs have a metal crush washer at the bottom. You can see the crush washer there. As you tighten it up, this washer gets crushed, and that's what actually seals combustion pressure inside the combustion chamber. When you put these plugs into the motor, you never want to just put them there and drop them in, because what happens, you might hit the tip of it and close the gap off and short out the spark plug, and then you have to do it over again. So the best way to do this, as I said, is with a magnetic socket or a socket with a rubber bushing inside. And then once it's in like that, just put it in the hole carefully. Don't hit the tip at the bottom. Catch the thread and turn it in. Well, once you have the socket there finger tight, hand tight, you're going to put your ratchet on there, and you're gonna start turning, and you're gonna actually feel that washer crushing. And you'll know once the washer is crushed all the way. And right there, once you start feeling that resistance after the washer is crushed, go maybe just a little bit. That's about it. Maybe 1/8 of a turn after the washer is crushed. You don't want to go too tight because you'll strip the threads, and that'll be bad news. You'll be either having to have this head removed and go to the machine shop, or at the very least retapping those threads with the helicoil. So you don't want to over tighten these. It'll be a bad day for you. So once that plug is in, you take the coil, put it back in, put in the 10mm, put the harness back together, and repeat the process for the other 5 spark plugs. So now that all the coils and plugs are installed, you can now reinstall back your intake manifold and pretty much do everything I showed you in the reverse process. But just a couple of tips before we do that. On this particular vehicle, it had 2 bad ignition coils, cylinder 1 and 3. And how do you know which one's cylinder 1? Say you hook up the OBD tool and it's like cylinder 1 misfire. Cylinder 1 on this vehicle will be the one that's closest to the front of the motor. That's cylinder 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, 5, 6. So we diagnosed that these 2 coils were bad. So what we did was I recommended the customer to change the 3 coils on this side that are not accessible once the intake manifold's installed, so he can forget about those ones. We have no issues with those. And if any of these old coils die in the future, they're easily accessible and can be replaced. And another note on coils on these cars, if you are replacing ignition coils, make sure you use the original Denso coil. Don't use aftermarket. They usually have all sorts of issues with them. They don't last as long. They don't provide as great spark energy. So I always recommend on these cars, always use the original Denso coils along with the Denso Iridium spark plugs. So that's about that for this job. I'm gonna have to end the video here because I gotta get this car back together for the customer by the end of the day. So basically, all you have to do is reassemble everything in the reverse order of how I showed you how to take it apart. Feel free to play the video backwards. That's exactly how it goes back together. And I'll also post the torque specs in the description. Thanks for watching.